Hello, my music-loving friends. Last time we started working on our note reading diagram here. So the first thing we're going to do today is put a title on it. And it is just going to be note reading. So note, N-O-T-E, and then reading, R-E-A-D-I-N-G. Now, let's get into it. You have these little fold lines, and those fold lines are there to keep you organized. So we're going to put notes that go on the G string here, D string, A string, E string. And again, I know that my fold lines are hard to see on the video, but you can see them on your paper. There's one here, there's one here, there's one here. So we're going to start with the G, and I'm going to use colors to differentiate the notes on each string. So let's just start at the bottom here with the G string. The G string is so low that it requires additional lines to show the notes. Importantly, the staff is just a graph of the sound. So if something sounds low, it's also going to look low on the staff. Here is an example of what the G sounds like. Pretty low, the lowest sound you can make on the violin. So, minding this little fold line here, I'm going to put some additional lines underneath. Those are called ledger lines if you like to know that kind of thing, but you don't have to remember that term yet. We can get to that another time. I'm going to put 4 additional ledger lines across. They should not be attached to one another, but they should be about the same space away from the bottom line of your staff that this line is from this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, this is where my fold is. You see I kept it all within that one column. That's important if you want your diagram to look nice. Now, for the first 2 notes, we actually need one more set of lines. So underneath those, I'm going to put a line and a line. We're really squeezing it in here. Here's where I'm going to switch to color. Again, I think using a different color for each line just helps me to, in my mind, keep things really organized. But you don't have to do that. You can make it look however you want to. When we play the G, that note is written underneath the very last line that you just made right here. All right, or the very bottom line that you made here. It's not with the line going through it, it's underneath it. So that's your G. And we're not going to fill in any letter names or finger numbers or anything yet. We're going to come back and do that as a separate step. Okay? When you need to play your first finger on G, that note goes around this little line right here. So it looks like the line is going right through it. The next note on the G string would be your second finger, and that one goes just underneath this additional line here. Not with the line going through it, but underneath it. And finally, once you get to third finger on the G string, it's going to look like this other extra line is going right through it. Okay? The G string notes are so low that I am going to put labeling on top of them. So let's go ahead and start doing that now. So I already told you that this is the G. And for the open strings, remember an open string is a string that you play with no fingers on it. For the open strings, we're just going to put the letter name. Okay? So we're going to put a G for this one. And I'm just putting it right above that. The note is in the right place. You can put the label right on top of that. That's fine. This next one, we're going to do finger numbers for now, and we're going to backtrack to letter names in a separate video. So this next one I already told you is first finger, so let's put a 1 over that. This next one is second finger, so let's put 2. And this next one is third finger, so let's put a 3. So that's all of the notes of the G string for now. We're leaving out fourth finger for the moment. If you're advanced enough, you already know that fourth finger is the same as the next string over. If you haven't gotten to that, it doesn't matter yet. This is sufficient for what you need to know right now. I am switching to a new color. When we get to the D string sounds a little bit higher, sounds like this. So the G was down here, but the D is up here. And so it, of course, looks a little bit higher on the staff. And you might have noticed already, we're just going up one line or space at a time. Every time you add a finger to the string or go up one little note, you go up a line or space in the staff. So now I'm putting all my D string notes in this second column. Here's a fold line and here's a fold line. So find your fold lines, and we're gonna fit 4 notes in that space. The D is just underneath the staff. It touches the bottom line, but that line is not going through it. Okay, then when we add a finger, that note is going to look like it has the line going through it. Then of course we add the next finger and it goes in the space above that. And then we finally add another finger and it goes with the line going through it. So we have G string notes, they sound really low, so they're underneath the staff. We have D string notes, they're kind of low, so they're in the bottom part of the staff. Let's go ahead and label that. And because we have a little bit more space now, I'm gonna start putting my labeling on the bottom. I wanted to conserve space in your book, so I made this a little bit smaller. So we're gonna just label things in a way that makes sense for the spacing. So I already told you this note is your D string, so we're gonna label that D. And because it's an open string, we don't need to put any finger numbers there. We go up a line or a space, we go up a finger number. So if this is D, this is first finger, second finger, third finger. I'm gonna switch colors. I'm now in this third column over here. And we're on the A string. It's not the bottom space, but the second space up from the bottom. And this note goes right in between the lines. The line's not going through it, it's touching the lines around it. It's in the space. So that's your A string. And then we add the next note on the line above with the line going right through it. The next note is in the space above that. And finally, the next note is on the line with the line going right through it. Let's put some labeling on these. I already told you this is your A string. It's an open string, so we don't need any finger numbers. We're just gonna write an A. And of course, these sound a little bit higher, so they look a little bit higher. That's the sound of your A string. So that's A. That must mean this one's first finger, second finger, third finger. The notes are getting higher, they're sounding higher. It's very orderly. Note reading is so logical. All right, we're in this final little column here, and it's time to get some notes on the E string. So the E string occupies this space between the top 2 lines. The lines are not going through it, it's in the space. Okay? And then we get another note around this line with the line going through it. The next note sits right on top of the staff like so. And then I'm going to squeeze in 2 more notes here. I'm going to assume that by the time you're doing this, you have used your 4th finger to some extent, but if you haven't, you will soon. We need 2 extra lines, 1 and 2. The next note, it goes space, line, line. And then the next one goes on top of that final line. And you know what? I realized I made my other ledger lines black. I gotta make these black. That makes me happy. All right. Imperfect, still awesome. All right, it must be time to put some finger numbers in there. Your E string sounds like that. It's very high, isn't it? That's why it's in the top part of the staff. So logical. So let's label it. The E is an open string. It doesn't need any numbers. We're just going to put an E under that. So you can see where your open strings are. The G is so low, we've had to add extra lines for it. The D is right underneath the staff. The A is in between these 2 lines here. And then the E is right in the top of that, in the top space of the staff. So that's E. This is first finger, second finger, third finger, and 4th finger on the E string.